Well, it is the most wonderful time of the year. It's Greyhound Derby time. The Derby is upon us. Kicks off Thursday night live on Racing Post Greyhound TV. The first round across Thursday, Friday and Saturday. And then this 6 rounds across the 5 weeks will all be live on the channel. You won't miss a single race of a single round. We're going to preview all the action, and I'm in very good company here as well. In the studio joining me is the open race correspondent from the Racing Post, Tony Bullen. How are you, Tony?
I'm doing good, Dave. Looking forward to this year's Derby. It's come round a lot quicker, obviously, with what the world's been going through, but a brilliant entry, and the Irish are clearly the ones to beat.
Indeed, yeah, they've mopped up our last 2 derbies, fielding the first 3 home. And we had to get the Irish expert on, of course, didn't we? The voice of Irish Greyhound Racing joins us, Ian Fortune, top commentator, broadcaster, as well from Shelbourne Park. From his home on Skype, he's joining us, Ian. How are you, Ian? I'm sure you're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to getting started, to be honest. Obviously, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's all been talk, chat, opinion. I've annoyed an awful lot of people. I'm looking forward to actually talking about facts and actual runs.
Absolutely, we are all looking forward to it. Right, format then, as I mentioned, 6 rounds of Greyhound racing. First 3 go through from each round into the final, which will be on the 10th of July, Saturday the 10th of July. There is £175,000 up for grabs in the Star Sports and TRC Events and Leisure English Greyhound Derby this year. And we are back to Towcester, Tony. We've had 2 goes at Nottingham, who've done a fantastic job, Nottingham, I must say. But we're back, we're over 500 metres, and it looks a fair circuit. Yeah,
well, it's 500 metres at Nottingham as well, and it was great atmosphere, the previous derby at Towcester. Facility-wise, for sure, it's one of the very best. I'm still sort of getting a handle on the venue myself, which I think a few people are, but I like the implementation of the new boxes. It's made a huge difference. I was at anti-wides with the previous boxes, but now I think that's been a massive leveller with these new boxes, and I think it's all to play for.
And Ian, what do you make of Towcester, the new Towcester, as it were?
I think it's a far superior version of Towcester than we saw. Obviously, the 2 previous years of the Derby and prior to May 1st, I think the boxes, I'd agree with Tony, have made a huge difference. I think it's a far more fair track now than it was, and I think there'll be no excuses, and I think that's all we want.
And what sort of profile of a dog should we be looking at to win a derby around this version of Towcester?
Obviously, when you've got early pace, you don't always have to be the fastest dog, because any trouble in behind, you've got a chance of holding on. So always look for early pace. Railer, I feel, will have a decent edge. But, as I say, touched on about the boxes, I feel that dogs can come from off the pace. We've seen dogs come from way off the pace. So that's good to see, because I think what I was seeing early doors, I wasn't liking it. Dogs turning 4th, 5th and 6th weren't running on as you would expect, and I think now it should be a spectacular event to watch, Dave.
And Ian, Nottingham at 2 previous derbies, I feel very similar to Shelbourne Park. What are your thoughts on Towcester and how some of the Irish dogs will handle the 500 metres?
Yeah, we'll be, like, obviously the way Towcester was, it was very much suited to an inside runner with, good early speed, good trapping. We have quite a number of them. I still think they'll be suited by this newer version of Towcester. But as Tony said, I think, the stronger running greyhounds from the outside will have their chance of coming through the pack. But I still think you need, like every derby, you need a dog with a bit of early speed and the strength to get the 500 metres, because apart from the strength in the races themselves, they're going to need it going forward. Like, it's going to be a real war of attrition. It's like, it's 6 runs over a testing trip is really going to put them, to the test.
OK, right, the Irish Challenge is a good one. Ian, we know that. You're 40 strong. You mopped up our last 2 derbies. That's the last I'll mention of that. But the way the world is at the moment, obviously we had the derby last year, which was £50,000. I'm glad precedent wasn't set there. We're back up to £175,000. But logistically, travelling, the Irish Raiders, I know a lot stay over anyway. What's the vibes over there? Everyone's travelling over, no problems, and going forward, providing everyone stays in, we're not expecting any issues, are we?
No, probably a lot of the hard work is done now, the over and back stuff. A lot of them are going to be based over in the UK for the duration of the Derby. There will be exceptions. I know Graham Holland is thinking of coming over and back for a round or two, but that should be fine. the likes of Brendan Matthews and Ollie Shields, who has one runner, they'll be coming over and back as they like, because they're in Northern Ireland, so there's no real restrictions in their movement. But the likes of Pat Buckley, Paul Hennessy, I'm not sure about Peter Cronin, but they will generally be staying over. I know Liam Dowling is planning on staying with Peter Harnden once again. So basically all the hard work as regards the getting over and back and worrying about being stopped and whether you'll be allowed through and not, that's over and done with now, effectively. So it's all guns blazing. Just hope that the dogs all settle and that everything goes well for them.
Yeah, fingers crossed we do get back to some sort of normality sooner rather than later. And as I mentioned, Towcester will definitely be putting on a big show. I know there's lots of competitions going to be running alongside the Derby, the final being on the 10th of July. RPG TV are sponsoring a sprint competition and a stayers competition. The Durando is going to be a 2-round competition this year as well. So do try and get to the track. Of course, if you can't, you'll be able to watch all the action on RPG TV, Sky Channel 437, Freesat 250 and Sporty Stuff TV. Let's get to it then. Let's get to the Derby itself and the runners. I suppose before we get to the Irish Challenge, we should have a little look at the betting, which is going to be dominated by Irish-trained greyhounds, with near enough all the firms. Knocknable Sid, the Ladbrokes Easter Cup champion, heads the betting. New in Session, Native Maestro, Ballymount Ariel, they're all in and around afterwards. We've got the defending champion, Dearjet Sydney, as well for Pat Buckley. He's in there. Yeah, it's quite an ominous-looking outright market, isn't it, Tony?
It's heavily stacked with the Irish Raiders. I mean, there's even a market for it to be an all-Irish final, which, again, that would be some feat, because even if you got 10 through to the semis and it was a 6-4 split or a 5-5 split, there's still a chance that one of the English Raiders would get through. But I expect the home team to do a little bit better than people expect.
Let's hope so, anyway. Right then, let's get on to the main Irish contenders then. And there is really only one place to start, although he's not contesting favouritism. We have to start with the defending champion, Dearjet Sydney, who came into last year's Derby as a dog looking like it was a little bit draw dependent, looking towards the inside, but he made his way through the Derby, and what a run this was in the final last year, Tony.
His main priority was clearing trap 1, and he did that. Obviously, there was the little bit of shenanigans at the start. Some dogs were in there longer than others, but take nothing away from Dearjet Sydney. Absolutely spot on the night. Once he secures those rails, he's relentless, and he keeps pulling. I think he could feel the presence of a challenger and kept digging and digging, Dave. Yeah,
absolutely. And I suppose the obvious question, Ian, is, well, why is he not more respected in the outright book? Why is he not up there with his kennel mate, Knocknable Sid, contesting favouritism?
That is the million-dollar question. Perhaps there has been money for other dogs, the likes of Ballymount Ariel. I know she's shorter in some firms due to the weight of money. But for me, Dearjet Sydney has been there, proven he's a competition greyhound, and that he can stand up to the rigours of certainly it was one run less last year, but by all accounts, this fellow is a professional. He's a good starter. He has the early speed. He stays tight to the fence, and when he does get to the front, he's never picked up. So, Dearjet Sydney for me should be right up there in contention.
Yeah, an interesting point that Ian's made there, Tony, in that, yes, we're looking for fast dogs, cope with different draws, versatility, but you cannot overlook the fact that a dog needs to be durable as well.
Well, he is durable. Look at the race that he ran on his reappearance. I mean, you could have forgiven the dog for needing the run, but he was gutsy, and he just kept pulling and pulling. And if he turns in the first 3 off the second bend, you would expect him to keep qualifying at worst. Absolutely.
Right, let's move on then to Knocknable Sid, who is by and large the anti-post favourite. He goes in trap 2 here. What we're seeing, this is semi-final of the Ladbrokes Easter Cup, which he of course went on to win, cheating that awkward draw out wide in 6. And this lad, Ian, he's all action early, isn't he? He's catch me if you can.
He is, but he's probably a stronger greyhound this year than he was last. His runs through the Easter Cup, that was the notable factor, was the fact that he was staying on so much stronger from that final bend home. And by all accounts, he just seems to have it all. Very similar to Dearjet Sydney. He's a good starter. He'll keep a true line. He's proven in competitions. And, when you look at his runs last year in Nottingham, he was desperately unlucky to go out in the semi-finals. It was the heat where Pat Buckley had the three dogs drawn together and they did each other. Knockable Sid got knocked out, and if he had been in the final with a favourable draw, who's to say he wouldn't be the English Derby champion looking to defend his title? I think he is a better greyhound this year, and certainly if I was picking three greyhounds to win the Derby, he would most certainly be in that three.
So Knockable Sid, a worthy favourite for you, Tony?
Has to be high on anyone's anti-post list. He's a bull of a dog, Dave. He's one of those dogs that even off a missed break, he'll bust a gut to try and get to the front at the crown of the bend. And I think what else is in his favour, he can overcome any draw. I think any trap draw will come alike to him. And if he can find his trapping boots throughout the Derby, it's going to take a major effort from one of the others to upstage him, because Towcester's going to suit. As Ian touched on, I think he's become a stronger dog as he's got older, and he is a worthy anti-post favourite in my opinion.
He has that ability to explode from the boxes as well with that early speed. So yeah, he's certainly going to have a say in this year's Derby. Knockable Sid. Now, Ian, it takes a very, very special bitch to win a Derby. We haven't seen too many do it. Might we see one this year with Liam Dowling's Ballymac Ariel? She's certainly suggesting that in the manner in which she's trialled round Towcester in recent weeks. Yeah,
have no doubt, Dave. This is one of the fastest bitches I've ever seen. Slightly disappointing this year, but you know, her unbelievable pace. It's there for all to see. She has stunning pace down the back straight. You know, she's already broken 28 seconds at Shelbourne Park on more than one occasion. She even did it in qualifying, you know, before she ever had her first race. She's just one of those bitches where, you know, she's every bit as fast as her male compatriots. Here you see her coming from the outside to land the spoils, but she seems to be getting her trapping in order. You know, well, certainly she was at the back end of last year. Things haven't quite gotten right for her this year, but just that trial was so much more encouraging than anything we've seen in the last couple of months. And if she does get her trapping in order, there's scarcely a dog alive that could handle her absolute brute pace. You know, I've ended up siding with her, you know, in a couple of places where, you know, Knockable Sid or Native Mitre already picked. She'd be very much in the frame for me as well. And just hope that she continues to trap. I'm still not quite sure where she wants to be drawn. That's my only fear. She will be running as a middle seat, I believe, but she has run from an inside and she has run from the outside. And still to this day, I don't know where her best draw is. All I know is that if she gets a clear run around the opening two bends, there's very few that can live with her. Yeah, she's carrying that middle seat. And from what we saw there, Tony, that was in the Easter Cup. That was her winning her heat from off the speed. She didn't look like she wanted the inside, so can't see that being a hindrance.
Not at all. I think she'll be drawn. Perfect draw, probably be 3 or 4 for her. I'm not too sure. If I had a dog in this Derby, I wouldn't want to be drawn in Trap 1. They was the old Peterborough boxes. Trap 1 was a hoodoo box when they was at Peterborough, and I haven't seen anything catapult out of the Red Vest, Dave, in trial stakes, and even graded runners have not been coming away brilliant. So I wouldn't be too bothered if I wanted a dog. I'd rather be in 2 than 1, but she's got all-round pace. And the way I look at this Derby, I would dissect it. You've got to take into account there's only a certain pool of dogs that can do 29 dead, 29.20. Then you've got your pool of dogs that are 29.30 to 29.60. So on that basis, there's probably only 10 or 15 dogs that can go low 29.
Absolutely. And we're now going to have a look at a ground that I'm hoping will be in that mould. He's still very much, for me, the unfinished article, but my word is an exciting greyhound. That is Larry Dunn's Night Tornado. We're going to have a look at him winning his juvenile Derby semi-final at Shelbourne Park out of Trap 1. And this is an exciting greyhound, Ian, isn't it?
Yeah, he's massively fast. He has, you know, unbelievable potential. Like, you see him here at his very, very best last year. This was the fastest run of the year for the 525-yard trip at Shelbourne Park. He's just a beautiful, fluent mover. Weighing in around 82 pounds at this point in his career. Just notable that he trialled at Shelbourne Park the other night, did 28.28, weighing in at 79 pounds. So perhaps just a pound or two has been taken off him. Was trained by Ollie Bray. By all accounts, Ollie may have been training up to recently. Larry Dunn and Ollie are very, very well connected. You know, Ollie actually trained an Oaks winner for Larry Dunn in the past. Larry himself, though, a very accomplished trainer, has had some real stars in the past. Very shrewd. Everything, and I mean everything, will be taken into account for this dog. There will be no, there'll be no shortcuts taken. This dog will be right, primed to race, and by all accounts, if he has come on for last year, he is very likely raced this term. He's only had the one race. He was out of luck, but by all accounts, if he finds that natural improvement from last year, which he should because he was a young greyhound, he's a massive, massive player. Probably a dog that will need to be off the front, and probably not the strongest, but at the same time, if he does hit the front, he'll certainly roll home over the 500 metres. Big player for me if he takes it place.
Yeah, absolutely. Got many thoughts on Night Tornado?
I mean, that VT, very impressive. I like a dog. When you can watch a dog down the far side, I always like the second or third pace that a dog shows, but he really covered the ground. You could see the way the stride was absolutely beautiful. Poetry in motion. He probably, as Ian said, is a dog that you want to be leading off the second bend. I'm not sure he'll be as fluent and pretty to the eye if having to come from second or third place, but he's a massive runner if he gets off the front.
Yeah, very exciting. Right, let's have a little look at some Towcester form then, shall we? Because Native Maestro goes for Graham Holland, who's been knocking on the door in recent years. He's had 4 finalists in the English Derby in the last 4 years. And this was Native Maestro mopping up a trial stake in impressive fashion. Ian, and he's without a doubt one of the contenders. The betting suggests that, and what he's achieved so far in his very short career suggests that as well.
I think he's made for Towcester. He was the first dog I actually backed for the English Derby. Once Graham Box had bought the dog and I knew he was staying with Graham to go to England, it was just a no-brainer. He just seems to have it all. He's lightly raced, he's still progressive, has great early speed, he's massive down the back, and he stays every inch of the 500 metres. Another one of those, like Dearjet Sydney, Knocknabull Sid, he's going to be very hard to keep out of the latter stages of the Derby if luck stays on his side. He probably could run from any trap, but he does want the inside. And obviously with the increased numbers in middles and wides this year, he probably will get a relatively good draw most nights. And yeah, Native Maestro, as I said, the first dog I backed for the English Derby, and I'm certainly not cashing out at this stage.
And Ian, just pigeonhole him a little bit for me. What would you have down as his running style? How's he going to be winning his races during this Derby?
Like you saw in his trial stake, good starter, get to the front and just keep pulling from the front. Just a relentless gallop. Just everything about him. He's just a nice mover, just a proper greyhound.
But he's got that big back straight pace, isn't he? You know, it wouldn't be race over if he's not off the front. You know, should he be turning second or third, he moved nicely 2 to 3 there, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose the same thing could be said for those top 3 or 4 dogs from Ireland, that if they don't lead, you can be sure that they'll keep going. They'll keep galloping out to the line, and that's why they are the prices they are, because you have double chances with them. You know, Native Maestro, perhaps one of his best ever runs, came in defeat in the likes of the Select Stakes and another race at Shelburne Park. He's proven more this year in defeat than he has in victory at the back end of last year. So just one of those dogs that there's still that room for improvement, and I suppose that's what people are grabbing onto as well.
Absolutely. Right, let's keep with the Towcester form then, and I'm going to let Mr. Bullen in the studio with me take the floor as well here, because we're going to have a look at Beach Avenue, and this was a sensational run coming from off the speed to pick up Highlight Arkle, and I know this is a ground that you like the look of, Tony.
Yeah, he's a dog that's lacked early pace from day one. It showed steady progress at Shelbourne and Limerick in 2019, but ran riot over 6 bends in the Cambridgeshire. Really improved, reaching the Laurel semis at Cork, won a final over 526 metres at Cork in February. But this shows you that dogs can come from way off the pace at Towcester. Look at, once he sees daylight, this dog, you still didn't think he was going to get there, and look at that relentless, powerful, striding dog. He's going to get his draw throughout this Derby, and I think he can keep qualifying, and I think he's going to be very difficult to keep out of frame. He might not be quick enough to win the final, but each way players, he's a decent bet to go at least to the semis, in my opinion. Yeah,
do remember the each way terms in the Ground Derby as ever. It's a tremendous each way betting heat. Course of the odds, first 6 homes, you get the place money should you get to the final. Quick word on Beach Avenue, Ian. Some engine, this one.
Yeah, I went from describing him as one of the most versatile dogs in training to describing him as one of the fastest dogs in training. His runs from the second bend home in the Easter Cup and the Shelburne Open 600 were astonishing. You know, it's not just the fact that he was coming from well off the pace, it was the dogs he was coming from well off the pace behind. You know, in the final of the Shelburne Easter, or the Shelburne 600, he came from lengths behind Ballymac Wild, one of our very best and very strongest greyhounds. Billy's Diva he picked up. You know, came from behind Great Name That. Like, these are greyhounds that don't get picked up. And Beach Avenue was giving them lengths and picking them up. His runs from the second bend home in Shelbourne Park have been nothing short of sensational, scarcely matched in recent years. And by all accounts, if he gets a clear run around the opening two bends at Towcester, he'll be in the final. You know, barring he gets knocked over some night, it's going to take a bomb to keep him out of the frame. I think for each way players, if you were on at the 40-1, I'm not sure what he is now. He's probably 33-1. Look, it's still, you know, quarter the odds. You know what I mean? Happy days. Beach Avenue is the most obvious each way play in the whole Derby.
Yeah, absolutely. A good Irish team, but we will end the Irish love in there, unfortunately for you, Ian, because we're now going to look at the UK trained team. Ireland are 0-2 in Towcester derbies. I will add that as well. But we, you know, although we outweigh them numerically, we do have a talented team of dogs as well, Tony.
Oh, without a doubt. And again, nothing's ever set in stone. This is what makes this sport so great. You know, you need a bit of luck in the draw. You need a bit of luck in running at times. But the Beach Avenue dog, he's going to turn nearer last than first in his heats. But if you put the clock on him from halfway coming home, there won't be many coming home faster on the second half of the race.
Absolutely. Right, one for the home team now. Thorn Falcon winning the KAB Maiden Derby. And now this was a dog who impressed me throughout this competition, Tony. He did it off the front and he also rode a bump there. Tremendously well-balanced greyhound as well. But didn't he open up nicely down the back?
He certainly he's a brute of a dog. He's 38 kilos, so that big solid frame, he can ride any bump that's given to him by a lighter dog, but he just runs the track superbly, and that's a major factor in this derby, Dave. You've got to run the track. He's got it all, this dog, far from the finished article. Just a question of how strong strength in depth was this year's maiden derby, but it looked an above average competition to my eye.
Absolutely. Well, I'll get Ian's thoughts on our team after we've seen a bit more VT. 10-pin up next for Dave Mullins, who's long been one of the more fancied UK-trained runners, going from Trap 2 here. Now, it was all action early at the start of his career. He picked up the Puppy Cup at Romford, but he's looking a slightly stronger dog now, Tony.
Yeah, when he won the Puppy Cup at Romford, you always felt he was going to make a smooth transition to a stiffer four bends, Dave, and he certainly done that. He won the Young Guns at Central Park, won by a wide margin at Nottingham on Derby final night, and that's a good event to win because Rio Quattro won the puppy race on Derby final night in 2014, went on to win the Derby the following year. I think he's changed his style a little bit. He ran in the RPG TV Juvenile, didn't really happen for him, but I think he's got it all. Like he's not a dog that has to lead off the front. I think the manner of his wins that we've seen, he's won messy. Like he's won from unpromising positions, and I think that if he can just trap half decent at any stage, he's going to be doing 29.10, no dangers.
Yeah, he's a winner. He certainly is a winner. Dave Mullins is 10-pin. Now, a very interesting runner for the Richard Rees kennel is Highlight Arkle. Now, Richard obviously got Southwood Jet to the final last year, missed the break, didn't work out for him. Richard, it's a tremendous story. He's a third-generation trainer. His grandfather and his father both trained Derby champions. And I like the look of Highlight Arkle here. We've got New In Session turning very handy here, Tony, but he's got the brute early speed. And he fended off New In Session. He
did, he certainly did, and you would have expected to show his class, but he really dug deep here, and I know you've been a fan of this dog. What I like with him is a dog that's got early pace. When you've got a length on him at the crown of the turn, where he cuts across, it can make the others just check up in behind, and that's where he can then go and try and steal a march down the far side, and that was a good effort, I mean, because you've got to take into account who was the runner-up.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to throw in one a little bit left field here that both myself and Tony think is going to go a long way at a big price, and that's Jimmy Fenwick's Cold as Ice. Now, this was Cold as Ice in action during the Ladbrokes Puppy Derby in Trap 5. This was over 480 metres. He was a finalist in the English Puppy Derby over the 500 metres at Towcester. You see him here swooping late, Tony, but he's now developed into a superstar stayer, hasn't he?
Yeah, Monmore wouldn't be... I've always had Monmore down as a speed track, Dave, and the problem with the Cold as Ice dog, he's a little bit clumsy. His track craft isn't the greatest, but he ran in the Puppy Derby, got to the Puppy Derby final at Towcester last year, and since they've stepped him up to Six Bend, he's been an absolute revelation, the dog. He broke the track record at Newcastle, and again, going back to stats, the great Westmead Hawk, he was stepped up, he won the Stayers Classic at Monmore, took on the Derby, and the rest is history. So I think Cold as Ice, I think he was around 80 to 1, 66 to 1. Massive player because he's a dog just coming into this event. Confidence is sky high.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Both myself and Tony are big fans of Cold as Ice. What do you make of our team, Ian?
Just looking through it this morning, there's 5 or 6 that jump out for me in terms of your team. You've highlighted a couple of them: Thorn, Falcon, highlight Arkle and Tenpin, of course. Warzone Tom has to be given a mention. Roxhome Chic is a dog that's capable of anything. Just if you can guarantee that he's going to get those 5 or 6 starts in a row, because when he does miss the kick, he just tend to find, or he has found, plenty of traffic problems. And another one I have to mention is Signet Ace. I think the 500 metres will really test him now, don't get me wrong, but geez, he has stunning pace to that third bend, so it'll be interesting to see who he goes. Cold as Ice, you're right, he'll come in a much more confident greyhound than he was, but I was following him myself over 4 bends for quite some time, and he was going to be costly to follow. I was lucky enough to get on the night you showed in the VT, but more often than not, he's going to find himself with sort of dogs to get around and pass. And, when you have something like a Knocknabul Sid or a Deerjet Sydney out front, and then you look and he has a Beach Avenue or a Dimachine right beside him, all of a sudden things get hot. And unless you're absolutely at the top of your game and getting the gaps at the right time, that's when you could find yourself in trouble. In terms of an English challenger, listen, Tenpin has very much changed his style of running. He's still good early speed, but he's not as dependent as he once was. He is guaranteed at least to place the second round, because I think he's the best drawn dog of the entire opening round, and I think he'll beat Warzone Tom in his heat, and by all accounts justify short price favoritism in the contest. He'll face tougher tests ahead, especially when he's get draws in the middle with maybe 1 or 2 of the Irish guns on his inner. We'll see. That might not happen. He might get a number of trap ones, and if he does, he'll be certainly in the latter stages of the Derby. Highlight Arkle has good early speed, but I think if he is drawn in the middle and 1 or 2 of our big guns are on the inside, he could find himself in a spot of bother, because he does probably need to set the pace. Thorn Falcon, he's £85. He's only had 4 or 5 races, and by all accounts, the maiden Derby wasn't up to this same standard. I'd hold fire in him for the moment. He is very inexperienced, but there's no question he's a lovely, balanced, beautiful moving greyhound. I just think this might come too soon for him.
Okay, interesting thoughts there. Ian Fortune on the UK trained team. We could sit here all afternoon talking about, we have got a talented team of dogs in the UK. We've picked out 4 there. There are plenty. Specials, Tony. It's always a great betting heat. As I mentioned, the Derby, the each way terms, but some of the bookmakers do like to get imaginative. There are markets winner to train the Derby. Not sure we're going to see one for the track record to go, because I think that's probably almost a given. But what are your thoughts on any of the special markets?
Yeah, the track record's a difficult one, because it could keep going unless something absolutely sets a real serious benchmark. Then the track record market was a silly market. I doubt there will be one, but there is one about the times, that what will be the fastest times during the Derby. I've got it around 28.8. I think Ty O'Shea done 28.72, I believe, on the old circuit. Same distance, but unless the track's actually absolutely flying and like that, I can't see 28.60. That's flying. I mean, I know these are good dogs, but 28.60, a lung bursting toaster, that's some run. I've got it around 28.80, could be the fastest track record time.
What about yourself, Ian? Have you picked out anything caught the eye so far? I mean, we're still a couple of days away from the Derby, but some of the markets are starting to emerge now.
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, until the form is readily available, we get really stuck into it. I'm more concerned about picking winners than picking specials. Although I agree with Tony, I like the fastest time market. I think we're probably reacting to what we've seen thus far. We've seen 29.09 Warzone Tom, 29.11 from Price's Jet. I've no doubt there's faster greyhounds in the Derby, and I think it'll probably settle around the 28.85, 86 mark. It's worth pointing out that, Ty O'Shea did 29.72, but it was probably more bends then than straights. Straights are that fraction bit longer, so dogs probably getting the chance to reach full speed at Towcester. So they may well go that fast in time, but if they are going to do it, it's going to happen in the early rounds, because it gets very competitive after that. And it's going to have to happen from a type of dog with a real powerful engine gets to the front. They're not always guaranteed to get to the front in the latter stages. Like Skywalker Logan around Nottingham, he got to the front early because he he was facing just a type of greyhound where he could get to the front, whereas in the latter stages of the Derby, he just couldn't quite get to the front. So I think if there is going to be a massive clock, like a 28 or a 70 odd clock, it'll come in the first or second round if conditions allow.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. There is a fastest sectional market out there as well, if you can find that. A couple that I like in that are John Mullins' Ballymac Slap Up, massive early. I'm not sure is going to stay the 500 metres. And Mark Wallace's Kulavani Kaiser as well, I think might go well off the front, posting a decent sectional. Again, always a good betting heat. Right, as I mentioned, the first round, we've got 32 heats running across Thursday, Friday and Saturday. 11, 11 and 10 are how they are set up. Try and get a nap from everyone in the first round, or at least a value wager, some sort of bet we can have in the first round. Ian, you said you've not drilled down into the form yet. Have you picked out anything in the first round?
Yeah, I thought there was a few. I've put a few stars before the Irish dogs, but again,
there's a shock.
You're waiting on prices to arrive. I assume Night Tornado might be a reasonably good price because he's taking on Highlight Arkle. If he clears Boyle Sports Bingo in the first 5 strides, I think Night Tornado could potentially go very quick. That's on Saturday night. A couple of clashes I'd be very interested in. The clash of Ballymac Wild and Roxholm Chic in Heat 17 is a really nice one. I hope Ballymac Wild is ready to go. He's a dog that tends to improve through his stake, but he's a real competition greyhound, and by all accounts, he'll give you a good guide of where he's at and where the Irish challenge is at. Roxholm Chic, very, very talented. But in terms of the actual dogs, I think are very likely to win. I think Romeo Magico in the very, very first heat, if he traps on terms, I think he's a really, really exceptional greyhound with a very bright future. Son of Magical Bale, who of course starred around Towcester in the past, and he's very similar to his father. I thought 10 Pin was an absolute model in his heat from trap 1. He's got amazing twink in trap 2. I know Warzone Tom is in against it, but I just think 10 Pin will probably hit the front early and win comfortably, and by all accounts maybe a shorter price in the second round than he should be, because if all goes well, he should be nearly getting a solo on the inside in that contest. But yeah, I think there's lots there. I think there'll be a fair few short price runners, and we might play a bit of value, maybe 1 or 2 of the Irish dogs. Something like Ballymac Kingdom might run well. He's out in trap 4, so they might take a chance with him. He is an inside seed, but he's just one of those dogs where he starts and he stays, and he always gives us all. So I'm taking a chance with something like that.
Okay, well, Ian's stolen my thunder a little bit there, because I do like Romeo Magico, but I do also like another one. But I'll get Tony's best bet of the first round before we do that.
I've looked at the form, hasn't come out till a little bit later, but the dog that I think will throw down a serious marker in the first round, he won't be a backable price, he's Sign It Ace. I think he's a penalty kick for his heat, and with a bingo break, he took off at Monmore last time out. He's one of those dogs that could set a benchmark in the early round. But as far as a punt, I like Drumcrow Brent. I think he's in Heat 2 on Thursday. He's Olympic semi-finalist, Essex Vars semi-finalist. Admittedly, he's probably about 29-30 top whack, I think he can do, but he's hit a heat here. I think he's going to have the freedom of the wide. He's got a dog in trap 5 that runs at Central Park, lacks a yard. Great Eastern on the inside. They could all tangle up on the rails, and this dog, he run well as a wide on the old traps. So the fact that he's as equally effective under the new format, I think his all-round pace can see him home. I think he's around 9-4, 2-1. I had him in around those odds. So that would be my main bet of the first round.
Okay, good stuff. I'm going to go a little bit left field and go with Lights Out, who's a bitch running on Thursday in Heat 5. The heat that we mentioned a little bit earlier on with Thorn Falcon in, who I think will be a short price for that. But trap 5 inside Thorn Falcon is Russian Blake, who's got lots and lots of early pace. Might just hold up Thorn Falcon, so I'll be interested to see what price Lights Out is there. She's a quirky, chasey bitch, but I think she can stay on and at least qualify from that heat, but she might go well at a big price. Right, talking about big prices, let's get everyone's outright selections then. I'll start with you, Ian, please.
You asked me to do a VT actually earlier in the week, and 1 or 2 of my selections were gone, so I went with Ballymac Ariel. I wouldn't go against her. I think there's probably 7 or 8 Irish dogs that I could tip and be confident that it'll get to the latter stages of the Derby. But if you're looking for one that I think will absolutely take to the place and perform consistently over the next few weeks, Knock the Bull Sid. He just looks bomb-proof in terms of his racing style. We know exactly what he's about. We know that his head is in the right place and that he's just chasing it into the ground. Yeah, he just looks all over an English Derby challenger for me.
Okay, so it's going to be that one for Ian. Knocknable Sid, who's favourite with most of the bookmakers, if not all the bookmakers. What about yourself, Tony? Looking a bit further left field?
We knew Ariel was going to be an automatic choice for Mr. Fortune, but I'm going to be looking on home soil. 10 pin's going to be my main selection. I think, as Ian said, he's got a great make-up, got his draw on the inside in the first round. He's trialled reasonably well. He hasn't got it right at the boxes, but he has changed his style a bit. And if Dave can keep him ticking over nicely and a little bit of luck in the draw, I think he could be our best hope for Derby glory. Cold as Ice I'm going to put up at a massive price. Again, he is a bit of a clumsy type of dog, but when he gets the gaps, he can run. And I just think he heads into this competition a different dog. And I think he can go very well at a massive price. Beach Avenue is going to be me top Irish. I mean, he'll probably have to go and win the Derby if he's going to land that. But I think he's 14-1 to be top Irish dog. And I thought the fact that he's going to keep qualifying, he was my selection. And I'm going to throw in the Drum Crow Brent. I think he's 125-1. He's not one of those dogs that can live with the 29-10, 29 dead dogs, but he runs the track extremely well. And he's going to get his draw out wide. He could be one of those... You always get one of those unexposed, like unknown quantities that get to the latter stages. And I just think he's one of those that, for Mark Wallace, could keep qualifying around 125-1.
Fantastic. Well, I'm not going to be all eggs in one basket, but a ground that I'm very, very excited to see in action is Larry Dunn's Night Tornado, one that Ian mentioned a little bit earlier on. 27.88 over the 525 at Shelbourne Park last year, fastest time of the year. He trialled on Saturday before racing 28.28. All systems go. This is a very, very exciting ground. He lit up the Juvenile Derby at Shelbourne Park. Obviously got beat in the final, but sensational before that. And he could be absolutely anything. And he's got that early speed. I think he can put pace to the race. Hopefully, the weather will be good at Towcester. We get some summer going. He can bounce off the ground and make all the running. So it's going to be Night Tornado for me. I'm also like Cold as Ice, same as Tony, and Lights Out as well at a huge price. She's 200-1. If she behaves herself, she might go a long way. Do try and get to the track, as I've mentioned. Lots going on at Towcester over the next 5 weeks. 6 rounds of racing, a real festival feel, the occasion there at Towcester. I'd like to thank Tony and Ian for both their time and expertise. No doubt we'll chat plenty over the next 5 weeks, gentlemen. And do remember, if you can't get to the track, you'll be able to watch every race of every round live on Racing Post Greyhound TV, Sky Channel 437, Freesat 250, and of course streamed for free at Sporty Stuff TV. Well, do enjoy the thrills and spills of this year's Greyhound Derby, and do remember to, of course, gamble responsibly also.